talk about the G minor scale over 2 octaves. And let's talk about a G minor 7th arpeggio over 2 octaves. So the first thing we'll talk about is the G minor scale and what notes that are in it. Most of us learn it in this position here. We're going to start and do all this in the key of G. So we'll start at G, A sharp, C, D, D sharp, F, G. And that's generally the way we learn to play this scale. But if we want to play it over 2 octaves, like I talked about in my other video, there's a bunch of different ways that we can do that. There's a bunch of, we could go, there's a lot of different methods that we could use to get there's a lot of different fingerings we could use to play it over 2 octaves, but I'm going to show you one that makes it easy to practice this. So you can start on, I'm going to play it through fast and then I'll show you how to do it. So this is a fingering I use to play it over 2 octaves. So I start on G. And what makes a 2 octave scale difficult is how many moves that you have and how you transition between positions. That's actually the difficult part of playing on a 4-string bass, especially playing over multiple octaves. So you've got to be able to work out some method that is going to be able to be repeatable and is not going to have some huge stretches that are going to be hard to do. I try to avoid doing I don't know how many frets this is, a 5 fret stretch, which would be like playing on each dot here. I try to avoid that stretch because it's hard to do. Even for me, and I have big hands, that's a stretch. So whenever I'm working out a fingering to do a 2 octave scale, I'm going to try to avoid that. Because it's hard for me to do, and it's hard for a lot of other people to do too. So this method kind of avoids that hand position. So what we do is we start with our index finger on the G, come up to the A, and now we're going to play on the E strings and the A strings. So it's G, A sharp, C, D, D sharp, F, and we're going to slide up to G. So that gets us our 1 octave. Now we've got the rest of the scale, so we've got another octave to play. So now we're going to go to the D string. We're going to hit A, B, or A sharp, C, D, D sharp, F, and then we're going to slide up to the G for our octave. So, G, so I'm keeping my actual fingering pattern is the same in both positions. Then I just have to slide up to that G. And you should practice, again, this is one of those things, practice it and starting in F and just practice it all the way up to the neck. To go along with that practice of a 2 octave G minor scale, I would also practice a 2 octave G minor 7th arpeggio. And that arpeggio sounds like this. That's the first octave. The second octave is, so, and again, the moves and where you place your fingers is the difficult thing about this. So we're going to start with our index finger on the G, the 3rd fret of the E string, and then we're going to move up, and I put my middle finger on the A sharp, my index finger on the D. I come up here to the F with my pinky, and I slide up to the G. Then I can do, I guess, what you would call the traditional shape for the G minor 7th, which is starting on the G string up, or the G note on the A string. Right? So you've got G, A sharp, D, F, G. So that's the note fingering that you use. That little bit of improvising I did at the beginning, that was just me just goofing off with the things I just showed you. So it's basically using the G minor scale to do a little one-off generic improvisation. And that's basically what we do with scales. It's so we know what the right notes are to play over a certain chord. That's the only reason you learn scales. And I think for most instrumentalists, they're learning scales so they can solo. But for the bass, we're using it so we can do fills. So hope that helped you. Thanks.